Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the part 2 lecture for NCRT Extract last minute revision for the chapter Human Reproduction. So, in the last class, that is on the part 1, that is yesterday, we discussed about the gametogenesis, that is spermatogenesis, and the structure of sperms. Okay, till the structure of sperms we discussed in yesterday's class, and in today's class the topics that we have to discuss over here is the oogenesis, structure of ovum, fertilization, menstrual cycle, and the development of the zygote. Clear? So these 5 topics we would be discussing in today's super amazing class on this part 2 lecture class of human reproduction one shot. Okay, I hope yesterday you had a quiz on human reproduction. Hope you all have done it. It includes previous year questions as well as NCRT based extract questions also were there. So hope you guys have done that well. So let's move on to today's session without wasting the time. Okay, so this is our amazing Telegram group at bio.new t.me/neat_biopoint where daily session updates, regular discussion, polls, and quizzes takes place in this small Telegram group where you can discuss your doubts among your friends, to the teachers, and everyone. So those who are watching this session right now, don't forget to hit the like button, do share it with your friends, and subscribe this amazing platform for biology needs 10th, 11th, 12th, and repeaters batch for the rule the world of bio. Don't forget once again, those who haven't done yet, like, share, and subscribe this session. Yes, so let's move on to today's session. And today we are going to start with oogenesis. Is that clear? So let's get started. So guys, this was where we stopped yesterday, and this is a topic which I am going to start today. Okay, everyone. So today we are going to discuss about oogenesis. What do you mean by genesis? Yesterday's class itself, I told you what is genesis. Genesis means formation. So oogenesis means formation of ovum. Formation of ovum is referred to as oogenesis. Am I right? Yes. So the process of formation of a mature female gamete is called oogenesis. Okay. So guys, you have to remember one particular point. That is, after the process of oogenesis, the thing that comes out of the ovary is not the exact matured ovum. It is actually the secondary oocyte. It is actually the secondary oocyte that comes out of the ovary after these steps. As soon as the sperm head, that is, look at this diagram, this is actually the ovum I am drawing. As soon as the sperm head touches the ovum, only it will convert it into an matured ovum or egg. We call then only it as an egg or an matured ovum. Is that clear? So till then the ovary releases what? Secondary oocyte. Some of the germinal epithelial cell divide by mitosis to produce a large number of gamete mother cell, or you can call them as oogonial cells. Oogonia multiply by mitosis to form the primary oocyte. Clear, everyone? So this is a oogonial cell. You suppose the oogonial cell will divide to form what? Primary oocyte. It will form by mitosis. So here no meiosis is taking place in the first step. Only mitosis is taking place from oogonial cells to primary oocyte. So when the ovum is entering, or when the particular cell is entering, female gamete is entering the first phase, that is the growth phase, the primary oocyte gets surrounded by a layer of granulosa cells, and that primary oocyte gets converted to form a primary follicle. MCQ question. Clear? Clear, everyone? So the primary oocyte surrounds, that is, this is a primary oocyte, you suppose. I'm just drawing, okay? This is a primary oocyte you support. 1 second. 1 second. Let me erase everything on the slide. Yes. Back, everyone. 1 second. Yes. Suppose this is a primary oocyte you suppose. I hope you can see the yellow marking. I'll draw with some other color. Okay. So guys, this is the primary oocyte. Okay. Primary oocyte. So this primary oocyte will get surrounded by, so as the primary oocyte enters into the growth phase, this particular primary oocyte gets surrounded by a layer of granulosa cells. Okay, this is the only way which I can make you understand. Okay, it gets surrounded by layers of what? It gets surrounded by layers of granulosa cells. Clear, everyone? So granulosa cells like this appear on the top of it, forming what? Forming a structure known as primary oocyte. That is, primary oocyte will convert into primary follicle. Follicle means a matured part. Clear? Follicle. So the primary oocytes enlarge and mature by obtaining food from the follicle cells. The primary follicles get surrounded again by different cells. Okay, different granulosa cells keeps on accommodating or accumulating on the surface and forming a new theca, which leads to the formation of secondary follicle. The secondary follicle soon transforms into a tertiary follicle, which is characterized by a fluid-filled cavity known as antrum. MCQ question. The fluid-filled cavity inside a tertiary follicle, inside the ovum, you will call them as antrum. A-N-T-R-U-M. Antrum. Clear, everyone? So I'll mark out the important points mentioned on the slide, everyone. I'll highlight the important points over here. So in today's class, we're discussing about oogenesis. The formation of a mature female gamete is called oogenesis. Some of the germinal cells divide by mitosis to form a large number of gamete mother cell or oogonial cells. The oogonia multiply by mitosis to form the primary oocyte. Sorry. Okay. So each primary oocyte gets surrounded by a layer of granulosa cells that leads to the formation of primary follicle. The primary follicle gets surrounded by more layer of granulosa cells to form secondary follicle. The secondary follicle gets transformed into a tertiary follicle, which is actually characterized by a fluid-filled cavity known as the antrum. So these are the important points which you have to study over here. Clear? So these are the important points. Once again, I'm highlighting this for you. Is that clear? So let's move on. So very important table. As yesterday also I told you, when I taught you spermatogenesis, I told you this figure can be a diagram based question for CBSE board exam as well as for NEET examination. Look, the oogonial cells, guys, you have to make out a difference. The biggest difference is that in case of human females, the production of primary oocyte starts at the age before birth itself. Before birth itself, the production of this particular thing starts. Okay, that is during the fetus stage itself, it starts. But in case of human males, only at the age of puberty, spermatogonial cells is even formed. But in case of human females, what happens is that in the fetal stage itself, a certain conversions and maturations have already took place. So certain oogonial cells will be present that will undergo mitosis to form the primary oocyte. Okay, primary oocyte. So At the time of delivery, the primary oocyte gets arrested. The primary oocyte gets arrested at the stage of meiosis 1, prophase 1 of meiosis. Prophase 1 of meiosis 1. Prophase 1 of meiosis 1 at the time of birth. Okay, so this primary oocyte, as a childhood, the primary oocyte will remain arrested without any further division or any cell growth or multiplication or whatever. But at the time of puberty, what happens? The primary oocyte will convert or will undergo and complete the meiosis 1 to form a first polar body and a secondary oocyte. Guys, look, in case, just remember this particular statement. In case of spermatogonia would divide into primary spermatocyte. The primary spermatocyte divides into secondary spermatocyte. The secondary spermatocyte divides into spermatids, and the spermatids divide into what? Sperms. Am I right? So look at, so each one particular cell, this cell divides equally. This cell divides equally to form two cells. But look, when at the time of puberty, when meiosis 1 is about to complete, it leads to this particular primary oocyte will divide in such a way that one gets a large amount of cell and the other gets a small amount. So that large cell you will call them as a secondary oocyte, which is haploid in nature, and the irregular thing that is a small cell you will call them as a first polar body. At the time of reproductive life, what happens? The secondary oocytes will again undergo division to have ovum, and the second polar body is formed. So a question may come for your NEET exam. How many polar bodies altogether are formed in one cycle? Two polar body. That is, there is a first polar body formed along with secondary oocyte, and there is a second polar body which is formed at the time of fertilization when ovum occurs. Is that clear? Yes. So let's continue. The theca layer is organized into an inner theca layer and an outer external theca layer. Okay, divided into an internal theca and external theca. As we have already told, the primary oocyte grows into secondary oocyte, secondary follicle, tertiary follicle, grows in size and completes its first meiotic division, which is equal, which is an unequal division. Okay, very important MCQ type question itself. Clear, everyone? So we already studied that the primary oocyte will convert into primary follicle. That primary follicle will convert by the accumulation of certain granulosa cells that would convert into secondary follicle. The secondary follicle gets transformed into tertiary follicle along with a fluid-filled space called the antrum. Clear, everyone? So at the time after tertiary follicle is formed, at the time of the division, it is actually an unequal division that leads to the formation of a secondary oocyte and a first tiny polar body. As we have already discussed, this particular primary follicle or primary oocyte divides into polar body and a secondary oocyte. The tertiary follicle changes into a mature follicle, or that mature follicle containing follicular cells are known as they are known as Graafian follicles. The secondary oocyte now forms a new membrane called the zona pellucida. Okay, guys, the secondary oocyte is now released. When it reaches the stage of secondary oocyte, what happens? It is actually released from the ovary. It is actually released from the ovary, right? Secondary oocyte. So in that, in order to have a protection, it is covered by a new membrane called the zona pellucida. Zona pellucida layer. Is that clear? The Graafian follicle then ruptures. So in your diagram, you might have seen a Graafian follicle might have, oh my God, this looks like the structure of an anther, right? Oh my God. Oh my God. One second. So here actually what happens, first polar body and a secondary oocyte is released. Okay, so oogonial cells are there. It divides to primary oocyte, into primary follicle, into secondary follicle, into tertiary follicle. The tertiary follicle gets converted into Graafian follicle, and like that it continues. So by the process known as ovulation. So look, I have explained it clearly. This is actually the secondary oocyte and not the ovum exactly. So the rupture of Graafian follicle to release a secondary oocyte is known as the ovulation. So if a sperm can enter the secondary oocyte through the zona pellucida layer, the secondary oocyte completes its meiosis too, and thus results in the formation of second polar body and ovum. Okay guys, this is the sperm, this is the cells of corona radiata cells, perivitelline space, and this is the zona pellucida layer. This is an important diagram in your NCRT which can be asked for an NCRT based question for your NEET, CBSE board and every examination. Very, very important topic. I'm going to highlight the important points because almost everybody knows the things related with it. Clear? So listen, menstrual cycle, the reproductive cycle starting from menarche till menopause, that is starting one menstruation till the next one in the female primates. Refer chapter number 1, reproduction in organism, to have a knowledge about what are primates and what are non-primates. Primates means they have an opposable thumb. Non-primates, they do not have an opposable thumb. So the cyclical changes happening inside the ovary, accessory duct and glands, everything inside the female reproductive tract of primates are known as menstrual cycle. In case if this happens in non-primates, then you will call them as estrous cycle. Okay, if this happens, if the cyclical changes happens in case of non-primates, for example cow, dog, goat, sheep, all these things are non-primates. So in case of non-primates, you'll call them as the estrous cycle. Okay. The first menstruation, which begins at the age of puberty, is called a menarche, and the end of menstruation at the age of 50-55 years, that you will call them as menopause. The cycle is repeated at an interval of 28 to 29 days. The menstrual cycle mainly involves three main phases, that is the menstrual phase, follicular phase, and the luteal phase. Menstrual phase, follicular phase, and the luteal phase. First, we are going to discuss about the menstrual phase. Menstrual flow occurs. What are the events that takes place? Menstrual flow occurs, lasts for about 3 to 5 days. How is actually the menstrual flow occurring? The endometrial lining of the uterus breaks along with the blood vessel, which forms a red fluid, results in the menstrual flow. So what are the components of the menstrual flow? The endometrial lining, blood, mucus, blood, broken blood vessel, along with the unfertilized ovum. If the ovum is fertilized by a sperm, menstrual flow does not occur, and hence it is an indicator of pregnancy. Okay, so hence it is an indicator of pregnancy. This is the first stage, that is the menstrual cycle starts with the menstrual flow. Okay, the menstrual flow occurs. So flow of menstrual blood, which lasts for 3 to 5 days. Both is important. The important points or important events that occur in the menstrual phase, and also how many days does it last for. 3 to 5 days. The endometrial lining of the uterus along with the blood vessel results in the menstrual flow. One more important point, the unfertilized ovum. The unfertilized ovum will also be there in the menstrual blood. So if the ovum is fertilized by a sperm, menstruation does not occur. So absence of menstruation can be a reason for, or is an indicator for pregnancy, but it can also come. Menstruation or menstrual cycle will be absent in certain cases where there are ovarian cyst or any other kinds of issues in the reproductive tract or anything associated with that. Is that clear? So always we cannot say that absence of menstruation indicates pregnancy. No. At the age of 50, menstrual cycle definitely stops in all the women, 50 to 55. Depending upon the habits, nutrition, everything taken, it may or may not extend 5 or 10 years. It depends on the climate, on the habits, on everything of an individual personality. Clear? So at those cases, it will automatically get stopped, and that you will call them as menopause. Clear? Menopause is the complete stoppage. You have to specify that as the complete stoppage. I'm not talking about at the time of pregnancy, menstrual cycle will not be there. At that time, don't call it as menopause. It's not menopause, but at the time of, at the age of 50, 55 years, menstrual cycle completely, permanent cessation happens. Clear, everyone? So the second one is the follicular phase. The second one is the follicular phase. So let's mark it out. In the follicular phase, what happens? The primary follicle. In the follicular phase, the primary follicles in the ovary grow to become the Graafian follicle. Endometrium regenerates through proliferation. After the menstrual cycle, what happens? Again, the next process after takes place for the release of ovum. So that is a process, that is a follicular phase. So at the time of follicular phase, what happens? So guys, just imagine like in the menstrual cycle, or the first menstrual cycle starts with a menstrual flow. That is, the endometrial lining breaks out, the blood vessel, mucus, blood, and the unfertilized ovum comes out of the vagina and cervix. So it is completely removed. So again, this system, or again the reproductive system, has to be active for producing the next set of gametes, right? So for that, again, the same process happens. A primary follicle get converted into a mature Graafian follicle through different middle stages, which we have already discussed, secondary, tertiary and all. It will convert into Graafian follicle. At the same time, one more event happens along with that, the endometrial lining. Suppose in this case, if fertilization happens, what happens? The endometrium have to be prepared for implantation, right? So the endometrial lining also gets thickened or proliferated. Clear? Changes in the pituitary and ovarian hormone induce a formation of Graafian follicle and regeneration of the endometrium. The secretion of gonadotropins like luteinizing hormone LH and FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, increases gradually during this phase and stimulates follicular development as well as secretion of estrogen by the follicle. Both LH and FSH attain a peak by the midday of the cycle, that is the 14th day. Rapid secretion of LH leading to its maximum level, which called LH surge, that induces the rupture of Graafian follicle and thereby release of ovum, which is known as the ovulation. Is that clear? Is it clear, everyone? Is it clear? So in follicular phase, in our text, we are discussing the two things together. That is, in the follicular phase, one more event's happening. That is the ovulatory phase. Ovulatory phase happening on the 14th day of the menstrual cycle, in the exactly middle day. So guys, in your textbook, there have been a graph. So at the time of 14th day, what happens? Suppose this I'm drawing LH. So LH will be there. So the LH will reach up to a high level on the 14th day. Okay, this 14th day, it will reach to a high level. This high surge of LH hormone is known as LH surge, is actually ruptures. It is actually necessary for the rupturing of Graafian follicle and thereby the release of ovum. Thereby the release of ovum. Clear, everyone? So mature Graafian follicle is formed at the stage of follicular phase. At the age of 14, at the day of 14, LH and FSH attain a great peak, which leads to the ovulation, and that process is known as LH surge. Is that clear? Yes. So let's move on to the next topic. Luteal phase. In this phase, the ruptured part of the Graafian follicle, so in the ovulatory phase, what happened? The Graafian follicle ruptures to give out the ovum, right? So the ruptured part of the Graafian follicle now turns into an yellow body, which is known as the corpus luteum. This is actually a endocrine gland. For some time, endocrine gland, it may act as an endocrine gland at the time of pregnancy. So the enzyme that is secreted, not enzyme, the hormone which is secreted by the corpus luteum is known as the progesterone, which is actually maintaining the endometrial wall for implantation. So if fertilization happens, only what happens? If fertilization happens, Graafian follicle turns into corpus luteum. The corpus luteum secretes a large amount of progesterone, which actually maintains the wall of the uterus, that is the endometrial lining, thick for implantation of the zygote. Clear? During pregnancy, all events of menstrual cycle stop and there is no menstruation. In the absence of fertilization, if fertilization does not happen, the corpus luteum degenerates to form a white structure. The corpus luteum degenerates to form a white structure, which is actually known as corpus albigans. This is not in your NCERT, but just remember for just an information. Write down in your NCERT, everyone. In your NCERT, they have shown a graph. In that graph, after 14 days, towards the end, the Graafian follicle will change into a white structure like this, irregular white structure. So this white structure is called corpus albigans. And if corpus luteum is not present, what happens? No progesterone. So no progesterone means no endometrial lining thickening happens. So it leads to the disintegration of the endometrial lining, leading to the formation of a new menstrual cycle. So menstrual cycle ceases around the age of 50 years of age, and that is referred to as the menopause. Clear? So this is actually a highlighting. I'm going to highlight each and every points for you right now. So listen very carefully over here. Fertilization. Clear? Fusion of haploid male sperm and haploid female gamete is known as fertilization. During coitus, the sperm is released by the male partner into the vagina. The sperm is released by the male partner into the vagina of the female partner, and that process is known as insemination. The fertilization happens. The sperms will swim through the cervix, vagina, and all. It will uterus. It will take into the isthmic or isthmus part of the fallopian tube. Ovum will also reach the ampullary isthmic part, and there its fertilization takes place. Very, very important point which have to be noted. Fertilization takes place in the ampullary isthmic junction. Okay. All copulation did not lead to fertilization because fertilization can only occur if the ovum and sperms are transported simultaneously to the ampullary isthmic junction. Okay, if sperms come first in that area and ovum if does not come, sperms will get automatically destroyed due to the acidic nature of the female reproductive tract. At the same time, if ovum comes earlier than the sperm, what happens? The ovum will get degenerated after some time, and sperm will not have any other ovum to fertilize over there. Clear? Sperm reaches ovary in the ampullary isthmic junction in contact with the zona pellucida layer of the ovum and block the entry of additional sperm, and thus only one sperm fertilizes the ovum. So there are certain mechanisms which you will study in the higher classes. Clear? The secretion of acrosome. The secretion of acrosome helps the sperms to penetrate through the zona pellucida layer and the plasma membrane of the ovum, and thus the secondary oocyte completes meiosis to resulting in the formation of a secondary polar body and a haploid egg or ovum. Clear? So the egg and the sperm fuses together to form what? A zygote. So fertilization is actually the fusion of the male and female gametes. Fusion of male and female gamete. The sperms are released by the male partner into vagina of the female, which is actually referred to as the process of insemination. So the fertilization happens in the ampullary isthmic junction. Okay, so the sperm, if this is the ovum, the sperm just penetrates through the zona pellucida layer of the ovum and blocks the entry of additional sperms, and only one sperm is able to fertilize the ovum. Clear? Clear, everyone? Clear? Is that clear for everybody? Yes, so let's check it out. Yes, we have four more. Sex determination in humans, very easy. Guys, in case of females, you will have XX chromosome. In case of males, you will have XY chromosome. So what are the gametes over in this case? X is a gamete, Y is a gamete. X is a gamete, Y is a gamete. So this will fuse together to have XY, sorry, XX, XY, XY. Oh my God. XX, XY, XX, XX, XY. One second, something have happened. One second, let me clarify that. Okay. So now I am going to teach you the sex determination in case of humans. Okay, the sex determination, whether the human male or human female, determines the sex of a fetus. You all know the parents, a male parent is required, a female parent is required, right? So I'm first drawing out the male parent, second is the female parent. In case of male parent, what all are the gametes? X, Y is actually the gamete. In case of human females, XX is the gamete. So this will have produces two set of. So now in this cross, we are going to have the gametes. Clear? So I'll draw for you. Okay. So first set of gametes. One second, I'll draw that. Clear? Yes, everyone. Is that clear? Look, everybody have to be over here. Yes. So X chromosome, Y chromosome, X chromosome, and X chromosome again. So when we are doing a cross, first cross, second cross, third cross, fourth cross. Clear? Is that clear for everyone? Yes. So in the first case, we are getting what? We are getting X chromosome into another X chromosome. In the second case also, we are getting one X chromosome from the male, one X chromosome from the female. In the third and fourth, you are getting one X chromosome and one Y chromosome. Am I clear? So this XX, XX, XY, and XY. So these two offsprings if formed will be female, and these two offsprings if formed will be male. So in all couples, there is a 50% chance of both male and female, both male and female child. Is that clear? This, remember this color code in your mind. That's it. Okay, everyone. Is that clear? Yes. Back to the class, back to the slides. So rest of all the organism, the sex determination steps and all you will study in the other chapter of genetics. Clear? So male has two sex chromosome X and Y, hence that produces 50% of sperm containing the X chromosome, 50% containing the Y chromosome, where female has two X chromosome. Clear? So it is actually the father or the male partner that determines the sex of the baby. Cleavage. Okay, everyone, cleavage. Cleavage is actually the mitotic division which starts as the zygote moves through the isthmus of the oviduct and forms 2, 4, 8, 16 cells which are known as blastomeres. Which are known as blastomeres. The embryo with 8 to 16, oh my god. The embryo with 8 to 16 blastomeres are known as morula. So the cleavage happens when it is actually a zygote which is passing through the isthmic junction of the oviduct itself, leading to the formation of 2, 4, 6, 18. 1 will convert into 2, will convert into 4, 4 into 8. So like this cleavage happens again into 16. So a blastula an embryo with 8 to 16 blastomeres is known as a morula. The morula divides to form blastocyst. The blastomeres in the blastocyst are arranged into an outer tropoblast layer, and an inner mass of cells attached to the tropoblast known as the inner cell mass. Okay, the tropoblast layer then gets attached to the endometrium of the uterus, and the inner cell mass divide to cover the blastocyst. And this process of attachment of the blastocyst to the wall of the uterus, attachment, okay, the attachment of the blastocyst to the wall of the uterus. Just imagine this is the wall of the uterus. Just imagine, guys, this is the wall of the uterus. Okay, so it is getting attached over here. So this attachment process is known as implantation. Is that clear? Yes. Okay, so pregnancy and embryonic development after implantation, finger-like projection appear on the tropoblast, and that is known as a chorionic villi. Uterine tissue and the maternal blood surrounds the chorionic villi, and there it leads to the formation of a structure known as placenta that helps in the absorption of nutrients, that helps to give the nutrients to the fetus to absorb and takes away the unwanted materials and waste products from the fetus to the maternal blood for excretion, gives away oxygen and other nutrients essential for the fetus from mother's blood. So actually this is a zygote. Zygote divides into 2-celled stage, into 4-celled stage, 8-celled stage, morula, 8 to 16-celled stage, 32-celled stage known as blastula. So it divides like this. Clear? Functions of placenta. Facilitates the supply of oxygen and nutrients to the tissue. Helps in the removal of carbon dioxide and excretory product. First of all, I will highlight those. Okay, first of all, I'll highlight those points. After that, it would be easy for you. Supply of oxygen and nutrients to the embryo. Point number 1. Removal of carbon dioxide and excretory products from the embryo. Point number 2. There is an umbilical cord which helps in the transport of substances to and from the embryo. Point number 3. It acts as an endocrine gland, produces several hormones. Point number 4. What are the different hormones? Just star mark that. Human chorionic gonadotropin HCG, human placental lactogen HPL, estrogen, progesterone are the main things. So hormone called relaxin is secreted at the time of pregnancy. HCG, HPL and relaxin are produced in women only during pregnancy. Levels of other hormones are increased several fold in the maternal blood. So what are the important points again? Let's highlight over there. Supply oxygen and nutrients, carbon dioxide and excretory waste removal. It is an umbilical cord which helps in the transport of substances. It is an endocrine tissue and produces several hormones such as a human chorionic gonadotropin, human placental lactogen, estrogen, progesterone, etc. A hormone called relaxin is secreted by the ovary in the later phase of pregnancy. HCG, HPL, and relaxin are produced in the women only at the time of pregnancy. MCQ. Again, this is also an MCQ. Is it clear for everybody? I hope it's clear. Yes? So after implantation, the inner cell mass is differentiated into ectoderm and an endoderm. Three layers give rise to all organs in adult. The cells which have the potency to give rise to different type of cells in the human body are called stem cells. MCQ. The human pregnancy lasts for 9 months, that is 280 days. Gestation period. Clear? First movement and appearance of hairs appear during the 5th month of pregnancy. Heart develops after 1 month of pregnancy. Limbs develop by the end of 2nd month. Major organ system formed by the end of 3rd month. First movement and appearance on head appears or occurs on the 5th month of pregnancy. By the end of 24 weeks, the body covers with fine hair, eyelids, eyelashes separate from all those things happen. At the 9th month, the fetus become fully developed. Clear? DBQ question for NEET exam. Have been asked for CBSE board exams too. So guys, moving on to the last part of this chapter, that is parturition and lactation. 1 second. Yes. Average duration of human pregnancy is about 9 months, and that period you will call them as gestation period. Today's class, I'm telling it for the 3rd or 4th time, 280 days. Vigorous contraction of the uterus at the end of pregnancy causes the delivery of the fetus, known as parturition. Vigorous contraction of the uterus. The signals for parturition, NEET MCQ question, NEET MCQ previous year. The signal for parturition originate from the fully developed fetus and the placenta. It is not originating from only placenta. It's not originating only from the fetus. It is originating from both fetus as well as placenta. And that it induces mild uterine contraction called fetal ejection reflex. The fetal ejection reflex releases oxytocin hormone from the pituitary gland of mother, which acts on the uterus and causes a contraction. Production of milk at the end of pregnancy is known as lactation. So in the initial few days, it is a yellow colored liquid, which is actually known as colostrum, which is a high immune nutrient or immune agent, which we will study in detail about this colostrum in the chapter Human Health and Diseases. Clear. It develops the natural immunity. It gives an immunity to the child for the initial birth days. Clear. So that's all about this chapter, human reproduction. Thank you guys. See you in the next class with yet another supremely amazing session. Bye-bye.